Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain Break It Down Forex. It's your boy Big Bain in this thing. You guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it. All right. Boom. Over on the dollar, guys. We're up against a major supply zone, all right, or resistance level. All right. Looking at this from the weekly, you guys can clearly see that we had major support level here for the dollar, respecting that. Eventually we broke that level and it has become resistance, right? So we're basically at a point of where the dollar could potentially fall once again, right? But there's going to be a lot of waiting to see how price reacts in this zone before we'll know for sure if the dollar will fall. All right. Now, as far as the days go, right, it looks like we broke above Thursday's high on Friday, and it looks like we're going to continue pushing up to take out the previous week high of on the dollar, right? Which again leads us into that supply area, all right? And if I fine tune this supply area on this daily time frame, then we're looking more at this particular area for the dollar to push up into, right? Probably halfway, right, of the supply, and then potentially drop from there, right? But again, you never really know what you're going to get, especially with Trump being in office, all right? So as much as we're expecting the sweep of this high and for price to get deeper into this supply, price may just push up just a little bit, maybe only take out the high and then begin to fully drop. All right. So it's simply a waiting game, as is everything with trading, to see, how the dollar reacts in this area before, potentially dropping. So again, we're looking for a push up and then hopefully some convincing bearish candles to let us know that we'll start to push down, or at least on a lower time frame, like let's say the 15-minute time frame, right? What you're basically looking for, because you can see all the structure here is still bullish, right? Nothing is officially going bearish in terms of like a change of character. All right, so that would be price coming down and breaking below this low. That will give you your official change of character to where we can, pretty much have a higher probability of the dollar, doing a retracement and then a full drop at that point. All right, but so far we haven't gotten that, so we're waiting to see when we're going to get something that resembles this. All right, but for the time being, the dollar is bullish, and I do expect it to rise a good bit more coming into the beginning of the week, right? But then towards the middle, towards the end of the week, I am expecting some kind of reversal to the downside. All right. So again, we may get that sooner than later, but we just have to see how price shows its hand. All right. So I am temporarily bullish on the dollar. All right. Again, expecting it to push up a little further before deciding to drop, but I'm overall bearish, especially as we get into the middle of the week where we have a lot of unemployment news as well as PMI for the JPY, which will affect the dollar and what have you as well, right? So there's a lot of catalysts that could easily send the dollar tanking. All right, but we just got to wait and see how things play out. All right, guys, so again, temporarily bullish, overall bearish on the dollar. All right, moving over to JPY. Okay, so now looking at the JPY here on this daily time frame, what you guys can see is that we had a nice sweep of Thursday's low, right, tapping into this nice demand area that we have here. All right, and then from there we pretty much closed lower than Thursday. All right, so now I'm expecting JPY to push down a little further, maybe grab this liquidity, maybe take out the previous week's low before rising. All right, but as we get down to a lower time frame, let's say the 2 hour, okay, what we can see now is at that demand area, even though again you can see here's where we closed below Thursday's low, right? But we have a morning star that is formed, right, which is a bullish reversal pattern at a demand area. So that is a high confluence, having that candlestick pattern at this demand zone, right? So from there, right, that happened on pretty much Friday where we formed it, and then we got a bit of a retracement back, which is why price closed below Thursday's low. All right, but that retracement is part of the reversal. So pretty much what I'm looking at on the JPY is exactly what it looks like it's about to do, take off to the upside. Right, I'm very bullish on the JPY. So just going from this low to this high, and we have a nice rejection of the 61.8 Fibonacci. All right, so again, there is a possibility, because we closed lower on Thursday, right, that we can continue going a little lower, like I mentioned, to probably sweep this liquidity and maybe get at this weekly low, right, pushing down before we rise. But for the fact that we did get that morning star and we got a nice retracement to fib, you know, it's making me feel like it won't go and sweep liquidity or get that weekly low, right? But that's just, assuming, right? The thing that will give it away on what it will do is how the candles close, guys. All right, and that's what you have to wait on to be able to determine exactly what price is most likely going to do. Okay, so when the market opens, if price starts to shoot down, all right, as in there's no closure, right, then obviously we're getting the sweep, and who knows how further down it's going to go. But if price starts to push up and then it closes as a bullish candle, chances are we're going to continue rising because of that morning star being at this demand level, which again is a bullish reversal pattern, right? So just coming back to the higher time frame, right, I do expect the JPY to absolutely rise. All right, and I believe they have some economic news, maybe Tuesday. I think it was their PMI. So if it comes out greater than 50, that's going to be good for their economy. They're going to rebound, and we're going to see a massive push up on the JPY, which will send most of the JPY pairs down. All right, guys. So I know GJ's the breadwinner in terms of the JPY pairs. So you guys need to be looking for your selling opportunity on whatever your favorite JPY pair is. All right, because JPY is looking bullish. All right, so I'm bullish on JPY. All right, over the odd dollar. Again, I am expecting the dollar to fall, right? And odd dollar has, gone down because the dollar's been going up this previous week. So now it's sitting at a fair value gap. It did sweep the low of Thursday, and it kind of closed, looks like right above that Thursday low. So there is a possibility coming into the beginning of the week that we can see the odd dollar begin to rise. All right, but there is a little bit more imbalance to the downside that maybe it wants to go get, right? You just never know. So if we get a nice bull candle, let's say Sunday or Monday, that closes above this candle, then again we'll have a bit of a morning star, just like the JPY, to where we'll see the odd dollar start to rise. All right, so right now, I am more bullish on odd dollar than I am bearish, but I can see the odd dollar possibly pushing down a little more as the dollar pushes up a little more before it falls. But once the dollar falls, again, guys, we're going to see major moves up on this pair, odd dollar. All right, so I am bullish on odd dollar. All right, over to euro dollar. Again, still in the same play that I've been in. All right, again, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is where we started to fall because the dollar started to rise. So we just simply did a retracement instead of taking off, right, from this hammer candle. We retrace back into this demand area, and from here, again, we could push down a little more, kind of taking out this particular low right here. But then once that happens, I will be expecting euro dollar to make a full recovery and get all the way up to this particular swing high to the left. All right, guys, so don't sleep on your major pairs, right, like euro dollar, pound dollar, odd dollar, etc., right? As they may seem like they're going to fall because the dollar may rise just a bit. But if the dollar falls, guys, you're going to, have a great opportunity of getting in to these plays at a very low price point and catching it all the way up on its run phase to a previous high, which is going to give you, hundreds of pips. That's 500, right? So, just really want to, you know, be ready for this particular kind of play, right? And just know that if you have your stop below this swing low, right, below here, chances are you're pretty good for whatever amount of dropping it's going to do while the dollar rises, okay? But once that is over with, again, guys, we're going to be looking at a major push up to the upside. So, I'm hanging on, my team is hanging on. You guys need to, get in the mix and try to get what you can, while the getting is good. All right. Bullish on euro dollar. Same goes for pound dollar, right? Same exact MO, right? Nice push down, right? We started to make higher highs, right? And now we're just getting a retracement of that from last week as the dollar rose. I do expect potentially for pound to come down a little more, taking this swing low before possibly rising again. I do see this bit of a demand area here. All right, so we did tap into it, and then from there we stayed higher with price. So we may not come down, but if we do, right, if we can just get below that in terms of your stop, then you're going to be able to survive that push down, right? It's all about understanding, where price is potentially, going to go, what direction, okay? And if you can identify that and put your stop below, an area that it shouldn't get past, right? Because this is a strong demand area, all right? Last time we were here, absolutely took off. So we came right back down to that same area. And again, we had a chance to, just take off from this area, but we didn't, right? It just wanted to make a correction. People who maybe have bought from here, right, were taking profits, right? So that is creating sell orders that, you see visibly from these candles that are pushing down. So right from here, guys, again, maybe a little push down further, but after that, kaboom, right back to, how we previously did last time we were in this zone. So watch out for, again, a great bullish opportunity on pound dollar. I'm bullish. All right. Moving over to New Zealand dollar, same thing. I won't bore you with it, right? We broke the high, all the retracement back to our major demand area. We swept Thursday's low. We closed below it, so we may come down just a little bit more right before we rise. Yes, there's a huge imbalance here and another demand area here. So that might be on the table, right? I can't say that is, not a possibility, but I'm just letting you know that once it does show us that that bulls are starting to show up from these key areas, those are great opportunities, guys, for you to take these major pairs long, because the dollar does look like it will take a major drop after it pushes up a little bit. All right, so I'm bullish on New Zealand dollar. All right, dollar CAD, again, probably a little push up to take the swing, right? And then we'll start to fall, or maybe we'll just get halfway into the supply area and then begin to drop from there. All right, so again, I'm simply bearish on most of the dollar base pairs because I'm expecting the dollar to drop. So I'm bearish on dollar CAD. All right, dollar CHF. So, did an extra little playing around to sweep the previous week high, sweep Thursday's high, and now we're kind of tapped into this little fair value gap that we have right below our supply zone. All right, so again, I tell you guys, before anything wants to drop, right, it'll typically push up first, and that's what it did this past week. So now, it's just a matter of waiting as per usual, okay, for the rejection of the bulls in this supply area, because again, looking left, last time we were here, kaboom, all right, major drop, right? We slowly but surely crept our way right back up to this area. So again, I'm expecting history to repeat itself, all right, and give us a major drop to the downside on dollar CHF. I am bearish, all right. Over to dollar JPY, it hurt my heart, all right, because it did continue to rise, sweeping the previous week high, right? So that means it wants to go higher, right? So with that, we may get to taking out this swing high to the left here, as we may push up and take that out, right? But that also may not happen, right? We may just start rejecting once the week opens and start to fall back below, right, the high of Thursday, which will pretty much let us know that we're ready to continue falling. All right, this was a major bearish engulfing candle, and when we made the retracement here, we should have dropped, right? That's how that should have went on the JPY or on dollar JPY. But then there was a lot of positive news that came out for the dollar that sent the dollar pushing up. All right, and again, that was a lot of a lot of things, right? Ceasefire, good employment numbers, and things of that nature, right? So it just caused the dollar to rise. But we all know, right, the dollar's not doing good, and again, we're heading into major resistance areas, right? We're just getting a little bit more, right, from those resistance areas, which is simply going to load up, these pairs to drop even further. All right, so just know that as much as we probably will get this nice rise out of dollar JPY, right, for another 100 some odd pips, there is also a very high probability that this move up that we see was just a sweep, right, a liquidity sweep of this high, right, to now take that money and push price down. We have these equal lows, which also have liquidity sitting behind them. So we've taken buy side liquidity. We're going to drop and seek out sell side liquidity. So once again, we want to see some kind of bearish candle, right, that closes below Friday's low, right? If we get that, then it's on like hot butter popcorn. All right, guys. And I will be looking for a major drop, as I've been on dollar JPY. Just didn't get it when I wanted it, but that doesn't mean it's not on the way. All right, so I'm going to be ready so I don't have to get ready, guys. Dollar JPY is going to pay. All right, bearish on that. All right, over to pound CHF. All right, we swept Thursday's high, right, and we closed back lower as well as the previous week. So I do expect pound CHF to give us a push down. All right, so I'm bearish on that, as you can see in my position here. And yeah, we're at that supply area, so I do expect a drop on pound CHF. I'm bearish. Pound CAD, all right, same exact thing. I took the sell because on Friday we closed below Thursday's low, right? And this is a bit of a evening star, even though it doesn't look textbook, right, on what you see when you Google like an evening star. But looking at it from a lower time frame, okay, I can see, right, that we were rejecting this area after we swept the weekly high. We closed back within it, and we just kept rejecting. Nice bearish engulfing candle that eventually broke the low of Thursday, right, making us bearish. We retrace to fill the fair value gap, right, that was here, right, and just get a little bit above that bearish engulfing candle to take liquidity from above that, right? And now massive wick rejection, showing rejection of buyers. All right, guys, which is why I'm looking to sell to the next areas that have liquidity, which would be the weekly low and everything that you see from where price is down to that weekly low. All right, guys, so I'm bearish on pound CAD. All right, over to pound odd, same exact thing. Made a major rise up, again gave you guys that play, right? So now we've swept Thursday's high, bearish engulfing candle, closing back within the range. All right, and now again wick rejections above the candle showing denial of bulls. All right, so I'm bearish, and again looking for price to push down to that weekly low, getting me somewhere over 500 pips. All right, bearish on pound odd. All right, pound New Zealand, same thing, right? So again, major rise up, swept Thursday's high, closed back within, bearish engulfing. Just, they all kind of follow suit, guys, and that's something that you'll notice. And you know, trading over time is that you're going to see a lot of things that just seem to be repetitive, right? So then you kind of get the swing of how things go because you've seen it so many times, right? This is a major trend line, guys. Lots of liquidity behind each one of these lows that are touching this trend line, right? So now we're starting to get a rejection of bulls, right? After a liquidity sweep. So I am expecting price to at least get down to here, right, which was the previous week's high, and maybe it'll bounce up, right? We don't really know, but depending on, whatever economic news may affect this pair, right, it can either, send it absolutely crashing or respecting this confluence area and then probably rising from there. But even as we go down to that trend line, we're looking at 150 pips easily. All right, so again, the spread is 25 pips right now, so you don't want to sell it right out the gate, right? You just want to give it some time to lower the spread, right, to maybe 1 or 2 pips on the spread, and then from there, if it's still looking bearish, take your chances selling, as there's plenty of liquidity to get gat, right, on pound New Zealand. Guys, I'm bearish. All right, over to GJ, and I told you guys, JPY is looking bullish and GJ is looking very, very bearish. All right, we got a nice little break of a trend line right about here. Okay, doesn't have to be picture perfect, but you guys get the idea. All right, it was a bit of a wedge, if you will. So again, just give you guys the visuals, something like this, right? Boom, bam. So a rising wedge, the breakout with a bearish engulfing candle, the retest from the area that we broke, and now we're trading lower. All right, guys, it is textbook for price to absolutely tank on GJ, and there is my position, as you guys can see, looking to make over 500 pips on GJ this week, one of my go-to plays. All right, so don't miss out. I am bearish. All right, over to silver. So here's the talk of the town. All right, is it going down or what, right? Well, with silver, guys, to me it's still mixed. All right, we did sweep this particular low and we've stayed higher ever since. Okay, on silver, it's just that this is a bit of an evening star with the way these candles are formed, but I don't really think it's going to fall, right? Because of that evening star, because typically we want an evening star somewhere here at a high. So we want it at a resistance level. Technically, this isn't, you can see prices drop. So it's not at a resistance area or a high point. It's at a low point that this evening star formed, right? So it doesn't really validate what this evening star is about, which is a bearish reversal pattern. Well, how can we be reversing, right, to go bearish if we've already been bearish? You get what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that, again, you have to put some analytical skills behind, right, to make a decision on what you think silver is going to do. All right, but as we look at this from the daily time frame, actually let's look at it from the weekly. All right, so here again, guys, we've had a pretty nice correction, right? 4 straight weeks of silver falling when we've been at war for just about that time. So this didn't make any sense whatsoever, right, from a fundamental standpoint. But there were other things that caused silver to drop. All right, that didn't line up with war going on where it should have rose, right? But regardless, we got the push down and we made our liquidity sweep, and now we're trading above the previous week's low, right? So coming down, we swept liquidity, swept the weekly low, and now we're trading above it. To me, this is bullish. right? So we should, possibly, do a bit of a retracement down, right? And then just absolutely take off on silver. So coming back down to a lower time frame, let's look at like the 1 hour, 4 hour. All right, and now here again, guys, you can see that here was a high that broke this low, right? All the liquidity grab and then a massive bullish engulfing candle. From this, price has stayed above this low, right? So here's a higher low, right? A bit of a higher high from here, not here, but a higher low, and then again another higher high. So from the looks of things, we are rising, right, on silver, and it's kind of giving a little bit of a inverted head and shoulders, right? Left shoulder here, head, and this could be the right shoulder, but this could also be the right shoulder. Either way, right, we did get a nice push up, retracement, and now another bullish engulfing candle to end the week. So I do expect silver to give some sort of drop, right? Just a little bit, maybe back to this trend line. There, it is possible that it'll get below this low, like it'll come and take out this low and then go. But guys, silver's ready, right, for the rise, right? And if you set, yourself a buy stop order above Thursday's high, chances are when it gets ready to go, it'll put you into that trade and just completely continue taking off, right? And we're aiming for that high, but I do believe silver will get way higher than that this week, as there's a lot of economic news that could cause that to happen. All right, guys. So saying all that to say, I'm very bullish on silver still. All right, guys. Moving over to gold. All right. So just like we did looking at the weekly on gold, let's look at the weekly on silver. Let's look at the weekly on gold and look at that wick, guys. I mean, if that's not tattletelling, I don't know what is. All right. Swept the previous week low, swept the swing low, even got whatever little bit of liquidity was down here in this area right to the T, came back and we closed above that previous week low. So again, guys, this screams bullish. All right. So from that weekly, if you're a swing trader, definitely looking to take gold for a buy long term. But as we get down to the lower time frame, again, you can see we closed inside. We swept the high of Thursday, right? But we still closed inside as an inside bar. And just quite frankly, when we get down to lower time frames to see more details, right, you can see that once again, from this low, we've created higher low and a higher high and a higher low. So I just expect gold to simply, fill this fair value gap that it created at the end of the week. All right, tap into that. All right, and from there, right, just a little drop, maybe halfway in the fair value gap, maybe all the way at the bottom of the fair value gap, right? But once it does that, okay, I'm looking for gold to kaboom, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And again, that's not even the tip of the iceberg, right? I think we're getting right back to 5,600, possibly 6,000, right? Is where, most analysts are targeting for gold to reach, right? We've gotten all of the retracement done, the liquidity sweep, we're trading higher, right? Making higher lows. And again, guys, I just think that we're gonna, finally get what we've been waiting for all of March for these metals to rise. All right, guys. So again, try to take advantage of what you can, because silver and gold will absolutely get you paid. I'm bullish. All right. Natural gas, same exact thing, right? I'm bullish, right? Just came and got into our fair value gap. We closed above Thursday's high, right? We respected it, and then we pushed up even more. So I expect natural gas to blast off as the week begins, filling all this imbalance to the left, right? Which you probably can't see too well on the 4 hour, but here on the daily, now things look, a lot more clear. All right, so we got our sweep, right, and we got our bullish candles to show up. So now it's just simply a matter of, seeking buy side liquidity, all the way to this high is where I expect natural gas to get to over this, next week or so. All right, so I'm bullish on natural gas. All right, oil. So Friday it made a push up, breaking above Thursday's high, right, and getting into the supply area. So it's going to be tricky to see if oil will blast through that supply area because we know, what's going on geopolitically, right, and see if it'll get back up here. But there is a possibility that it will respect supply, maybe sweep the weekly high and then drop. All right, so that is, going to be interesting to see, how oil reacts at this level or this zone. With all the issues that we have going on with Iran and everything else, right? So this is something you definitely want to see if it breaks above, like a candle break above, or if you get a candle break below, right? That is going to be the determining factor on whether or not you want to continue buying oil or look for a selling opportunity. So right now, again, it is a little mixy, right? As it can go either way, but we need to just have the chart give us another candle or two to let us know, okay, this is what you're looking to do, and then from there we'll make that decision. All right, so undecided on oil at the moment, but for it being in supply, I will say bearish, but because I know what's going on, I also want to say bullish, right? But very indecisive on what oil is going to do. Just need to give it a little bit more time to show its hand, and then we'll have a plan. All right, undecided on oil. All right, over to SPY. So guys, this looks crazy. All right, looking at this from this weekly time frame, SPY looks like it's going to die, right? We sold it and we're in profit, but it just looks like it's absolutely going to tank, at least getting to this support level here, right? Before looking for or having a potential rise. So we're looking at 430 points drop on SPY, right? And again, this can happen as the dollar's rising, right? Before it drops, right? That can happen where the correlation is typically when the dollar rises, these indices fall. So we could see SPY, give a huge drop right out the gate, right? You know what I mean? Because again, Friday it was telling us that yeah, it's ready to absolutely tank. All right. So as you can see, I'm I've sold and I'm bearish on it. My team is bearish on it, and I expect it to continue falling this week. So I'm bearish on SPY. All right, over the NAS, same exact thing, guys. Right, so again, how low can you go? We don't know, but it is looking extremely bearish. So we riding the wave, right? It's been talks of crashes and everything else in between, and who knows, this could be that time, right? So looking at it here, just seeing if we push down to this particular low right here, that's about 1,709 points. All right, so that's on the table, and who knows, it could just go way further than that, right? You just never really know. But these indices are looking extremely bearish, and yeah, I don't see any indication of it rising at the moment. Again, this might be a liquidity sweep here, but again, the candle looks very strong. We got very strong bullish rejection on that. So again, it just looks like it's going to continue dropping, and we'll try to take advantage of that. All right, bearish on NAS. Last but not least, US 30, and it's birds of a feathers, guys. Right, just complete bullish rejection, and breaking the weekly low, breaking Thursday's low, just looking like it's ready to absolutely tank. All right, it looks like it'll get here, but you just never know, right? Sometimes this takes longer than you expect, but ultimately it goes in your direction. So you just have to have a lot of patience with it. But the way it just looks absolutely bearish on a major type of drop that I can see happening from what the chart is giving us. All right, so you guys want to, buckle up this week because everything that was expected, right, didn't quite happen the way that we wanted it to. But now, things are lining up a lot better to, be able to take advantage of. So make sure you do so. All right. But in the meantime, in between time, you guys know what it is. It's your boy. Peace.
Wanna get money? Wanna get paid? That's Forex. Like a sensei, then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.